How does the research scenario will look for these universities without any grant?
What if medical school was free? Who would go to medical school if it didn't cost them anything? The amount of technology that we now have never existed before.
If this carries on from one generation to another, what's the purpose of your brain? Yugan, this is podcast 5. You have put down some great questions for us in the discussion. We are going to look into multiple things. This is ranging from AI, from what the government is doing, construction, firefighting, which you are really passionate about, and you have been part of it for a long time. So I want to start this one with not about AI, but something that the US government has been doing. I don't know if it's a silent thing or it's going to have some major impact in how the universities are going to react. But one of the biggest stories is the White House is reportedly planning to direct billions of dollars in research funding towards artificial intelligence. And that money, they are reducing it from the traditional university research programs. And on the surface, it might sound like another budget discussion, But if you look at it, maybe the government is thinking about, okay, the innovation is actually not happening there. Maybe it's the innovation that is going to happen there. Because for decades, I think universities have been, the birthplace of all these big things. Harvard was known for all these silicon tech companies and everything. And all these breakthroughs that has happened in the last, let's say, couple of years are actually coming from companies who have deep pockets, have technologies, have engineering teams. And I don't think at one scale universities would be able to, counterbalance that. So maybe it's not just about moving the money. Maybe it's totally redefining the way we have been taking it in the industry and what the government believes in it. So what's your first reaction?
I don't love universities in certain aspects, right? I think they definitely teach us to think about scientific method and how to think strategically. But I do feel like a lot of universities, I come from a real estate also as a side interest. I feel like they are landlords, but instead of having a nice pool and a gym and everything like that, their amenities is a degree, right? Because you look at a lot of at least the US universities, right? Food cards, now you can go to Chipotle and use your meal card at Chipotle. That's not what I'm used to. It was college cafeteria, right? They seem like they have grown a lot and our cost of education is not going down, right? And there's also been some interesting topics to talk about, what if medical school was free? Would that attract the true talent that should be going to that? So I'm completely fine with cutting off the bloodline or the money line to some of these universities because I think we need to reinvent universities. But I do think you're seeing a lot of very high velocity startups that might benefit from this infusion of money and attention.
Yeah. And this brings out, it's actually opening two ways, right? The universities are obviously going to be really pissed off that all of a sudden their funding is gone, right? But it also contributes to the fact, and maybe I'm wrong, that no real innovation has been coming out of these universities lately. It's not that they are building some real great stuff in the recent times. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think the research labs of the past might be less. I do think that the university should focus on the development of humans, right? I'm very happy I went to a university. It was a hard engineering program. I failed many of classes, and there's many times I was on academic probation because I was struggling with it. Engineering was a hard thing. But the school I went to was Drexel University in Philadelphia, and we also had a co-op program. So we went to school for 6 months and we worked for 6 months, and that was a 5-year program. I would never take that experience for granted, right? That was a huge opportunities of that. And there's not a lot of other good opportunities to develop talent in that way. I also love internships, right? Many of the companies I've worked with, I've been a huge advocate for internships, right? Because not all universities have co-op programs, but most of them have an internship. And giving those people a job over a summer period of time, it's been hugely rewarding. So I do think the development of the next generations is going to take time, right? The joke is, how long does it take to make an engineer, right? It takes 20 years, right? From birth through education. If we're short-sighted with that, I think that's a challenge. But who would go to engineering school if it didn't cost them anything? Who would go to medical school if it didn't cost them anything? that concept gives me goosebumps. And if we can live in an abundant society where that's possible, I think they will be the sources of innovation in the future.
Then obviously these research comes through funding, whatever research is happening in these universities. And it's been the fundamental structure for many decades for the society that we are living in. How does it affect the whole fundamental structure of the universities? How does the research scenario will look for these universities without any grant?
Yeah, I mean, even when I went to school, and geez, that was 23 years ago now, almost 25 years ago, right? I saw like the investments and grants definitely, like the whole R&D was less and less. It was just really like pushing people through to get a degree. I got very lucky that I paired with a professor that had a whole bunch of research stuff that was going on with robotics. I've loved robotics since I was little. I loved robotics in college. My freshman design project, my senior design project was about robotics. And I'm a mechanical engineer, right? I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm not any of that stuff, but I just love robotics. And I know a lot of the other people, they didn't have those opportunities. So, I mean, I want them to be the think tanks, but I mean, they might not all be there. And it's also, we have turned it into a commodity, right? A lot of universities that maybe shouldn't be giving degrees, right? We've heard of that challenge, right? I mean, if I had a kid, I'd probably still recommend them to go to a university, but I would want them to be something in the technicals. Like, hey, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be an engineer, if you're going to be a business major, but you never had any business, you didn't have your own mowing company, you didn't sell lemonade or have a paper route or whatever it is, right? Maybe you don't have that business kind of mindset, so I probably recommend to go away from it. So, and I think everyone's been pushing their kids to go to college, even if they didn't have that interest, which is unfortunate. So maybe we get a little bit away from it.
And even if it comes with a lot of debts that they keep on paying until God knows how many years. So
I mean, we are so over leveraged that it's super unfortunate that there's a generation that probably thinks they will never own a home, right? So,
that's true. And this has this whole grand scenario has another scenario. I was reading this document, Signs of New Golden Age, and it very interestingly puts, and I'm quoting that, the government should think like an investor rather than a bureaucracy, and it should not talk about capital allocation, but rather the term investing. Okay. And that opens a whole different level of, different horizon. Like, okay, if you're going to invest, you're probably going to expect some returns. So when they are investing in these individual researchers or programs or companies, what's that scenario going to? Is this something reading between the lines that, okay, they might be looking for return on investment or a better grasp on these technologies that, okay, we want you to do this or use it for the government?
Yeah. And keep in mind, when we talk investors, there's a lot of different kinds of investors, right? We know that there's angel investors, right? Angel investors have a little bit more of a hands-off kind of approach. But then there's also VCs, right? Venture capitalists, right? Like they might have their own C-suite individuals on your team and everything. So there's different kinds of investors. If they were more on the side of maybe, let's say, an angel investor, right? Like they're not putting a lot of their own energy in there and their own opinions, that might be an interesting solution. Or there's also a flip side to that, right? If they approached it like VCs and thinking about continuing abundance, right? Like, hey, if the government invests in these things and they are rapidly growing, will this be able to spin off other services, right? Because right now we struggle with debt, we struggle with Social Security and robbing a lot of those things. What if we were able to print money because of these opportunities and because of this abundance, that those things create more benefit for all of society?
And it could be a double-edged sword, maybe. Who knows? It's only going to, as it formulates, we'll come to know whether it's just for the purpose of it, and they might be saying, okay, we don't want anything, we just want you to grow. Or maybe some China factor that, okay, because the way they have been pushing, they want much faster innovation as compared to what they're getting.
Well, I mean, the other thing is we struggle with our different administrations, right?
Yeah.
We could be one way for 4 years, a different way for 4 years, and then another way different for 8 years, right? That is very short-sighted. Right? Many countries have a very clear path forward of what they want to do with AI or with autonomous vehicles or whatnot in investment. I don't know that we have that in the United States. We're all entrepreneurial in spirit. I mean, we can really swing from one way to another really fast.
Yeah. Then we have another industry, and that is like something completely unrelated. So one of the great stories, maybe, at least it's a start, is a robotics company called Great. They just came out of incognito and they raised $32 million. But what really interests me is their business model. So every construction industry is they are trying to build new products that can leverage AI and build upon that. Instead, they are taking their existing construction equipment, adding AI software to it, and trying to increase the work productivity. Now, they are in the solar industry sector, but the result is that, as they are claiming, a typical 8-person crew that normally installs around 800 panels a day can reportedly install 3,000 to 4,000 panels using grid systems. This is interesting. How does this development look to you?
Yeah, so I'm in utility space, right? I've done natural gas, coal, nuclear. I did a stint with solar, mainly commercial. So this was really interesting. And solar construction sites are also super interesting because it's a good testing ground. It's kind of a repetitive task over and over again, typically in a green field, right? It's not necessarily a tight working space. So they have a lot of good opportunities. Relatively, the sites are relatively flat also, right? So there's a lot of good ways of testing these things, right? Versus if you're building a skyscraper in downtown of any major city, that's not necessarily the case, right? And there's not like, you can't really stub your toe and be forgiven with it inside of a city versus a big green field in the middle of nowhere. It's a very repetitive task, right? We have structural steel members. We have modules that go on top. There's some wiring. It's very Lego block over and over again. I also love the fact that I think we've had a lot of good machines. Once we start putting the AI in these machines, I drive an autonomous car, right? The car hasn't changed much. It's just now it has AI inside of it. This new vehicle I have 40,000 miles on it, and I might have driven 400 of those miles, right? That is a huge step growth. Also, if we want a world of abundance, right? If we can start making more renewable, and not saying that solar is the answer for renewable, right? It has its challenges. But if we can make more of these systems with less people, like it grows really fast. And it's just like us, like we are a small contingent workforce for utility companies, right? And I've always felt that we've been slightly understaffed, right? We've always been lean and mean, but sometimes that stresses our team out. But now with AI, I feel like we are properly staffed. So, and I think that could be the case, like with these solar sites. I am super excited about robotics. I am super excited. We do a lot of warehouses. I am super excited about getting robots in our warehouses for like moving inventory items and things like that. Many people have Roomba vacuum cleaners, robot vacuum cleaners, right? And I think it will be very common to see that in warehouses as our first step.
And the thing is that it's a good place because there's no chaos. There's no chaotic system and
limited chaos. There's still elements and things like that, but it's very much more of a controlled environment.
Yeah, it's a very, very controlled. So if something goes south, it's not that it's going to be a massive damage to the whole system or the existing surrounding. But it also brings to me a question. And now we as a humans, we always try to, look into that far-fetched future. And okay, it's a stepping stone maybe, but how does it look to you? Like these are controlled environments. How far are we when these systems will be able to actually work in these chaotic environments? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we talk about like one of our biggest expenses is insurance, right? We have a lot of trucks that our technicians drive out there. Will there be a time? I think you're going to see this like feature creep. We're going to see that it's cheaper and easier to have an autonomous truck driving our technicians around, and it will pay for itself because our insurance prices go down, right? I also think that you will see like the feature creep of having these robots at more and more sites. You'll see them at solar sites. You'll probably see them in farming more and more. And there's already a lot of the autonomous stuff in farming.
Yeah, correct.
And so like, you're not going to see a humanoid robot doing what we do in the field in the next couple years, but you will probably see autonomous cars. And then you'll probably see some of the things going on in our warehouse, right? And then another year or two, maybe we have autonomous vehicle. Like we sometimes need supplies. Like, man, I need this tool. I left it. I ran out of it. I broke it. And maybe the truck that drives that tool to that person or the material doesn't even have a person in it, right? So I'm still doing stuff in the field, but I have machines that are like feeding me those things. So I think you're going to see that little by little more and more. And keep in mind, I mean, COVID was years and years and years ago now, right? But it seems like it was yesterday, right? So 5 years goes by really fast. So I would say, at least in our industry, we will see autonomous trucks in the 5 years. I will have a robot that's moving our inventory items in our warehouse in the next 5 years. And I will have a laborer, right? A laborer is a craft where like they kind of help with the nuts and bolts bolts of
Mhm.
a labor, autonomous labor delivering materials to us. Like, I mean, I was out in the field the other day and we had a breaker. Like your house has all these breakers and everything like that. And one of the breakers just failed. We went to the truck. We didn't have that 40 amp breaker. We had a 30 amp breaker. We didn't have a 40 amp breaker. So what did we
Mhm.
have to do? We had to drive, and it wasn't far, but it was 5 miles down the road to go to
Yeah.
Home Depot to get that 40 amp breaker. That will not exist in probably 2 to 3 years for us. It just won't. It just won't. We will
And
have a little bot that goes and gets it for us.
gets it for us. And the technology that these guys are using, these companies are using, do you think this successful implementation of using AI for these bots and everything, do you think it will be still on these same models, or it would be a completely different model?
So the thing is, we struggle with programming, right?
Yeah.
My robot vacuum cleaner looks really smart. There's no
Mm,
AI in it. There's
mm,
machine learning in it, right? And we kind of
yeah,
sometimes take that for granted. We've been using machine learning for years and years and years, right?
correct. Yeah.
And so it's just it's a cheap hack. If I put AI on it, I don't need to really code it that much. My car that drives itself is predominantly all machine learning. Now they are talking about like, hey, when I'm at a weird intersection or
Yeah.
something, maybe I'll take a picture real quick and send that to AI, but 99% of everything will be done with machine learning, right? So I
Mm,
think right now, while we are trying to move fast and break things, it's easy just to put that Lego block of AI on top of it. But I do think that you're going to find this weird combination because it's going to be expensive always to use AI, right?
mhm.
So I think you're going to have this good combination of doing machine learning. And the cool thing is, if we go fast, we can actually take, and we're doing this also in our systems, like try to see if we can do some documentation. So after we have 1,000 of something or 10,000 of something, we can start doing some machine learning against that. So the first version is AI and it maybe costs you a little bit much. Then you have like a V2 that has some machine learning. And then eventually when you get the V5, like it's predominantly machine learning, but then it has fail safes with smarter systems. So that's what I think will be the gameplay for most of this.
One of the interesting thing is, so when we talk about two worlds, where you're living in the States, I'm in India, the level of chaos and the degree of chaos is completely different. If the timeline for implementation is in the States is 5 years, it may be going to be 10 or 15 years to be implemented in India. Do you think the same system that applies over there will be able to apply it back home over here, or it would be something different?
I think that your problem and your uniqueness isn't
Mhm.
as unique as you think. And here's what I say. I have 30,000 plus autonomous miles underneath my belt over the
Mhm.
last 5 to 8 years. I am wowed by the chaos that it handles. The other day I was driving in my car and it did its turn signal because it was going to get on the off ramp. And all of a sudden used the accelerator and got back in its lane. I was like, what are you doing? And there was a very enthusiastic big black truck that decided it wanted to drive on the shoulder because it was more important. I'm sure he had to use the bathroom, right? He was rushing to get home to use the bathroom. There's just like little down trees that it sees and things that it goes around, right? I think there are unique situations. Don't get me wrong. But
Mhm.
I think the pace that we are going, you'll be surprised how good these systems are. Now, I think some of the other like warehouses, I almost hope that we have a robot in one of our warehouses in the next year. But that's
Okay.
me being glass half full, right? It's probably going to be 2 or 3 years. But I will push to see if we could try to get one sooner than that, right? Because we have forklifts. Forklifts are heavy pieces of machinery. They're very long. Sometimes they move into tight spots. It can be very risky, right? But the new technology that they have with some of these robot forklifts, I mean, they're literally like two little skateboards that go underneath of it.
Okay.
There is no footprint. Like it would be able to move every one of our pallets in perfect synchrony. Like it will be so, so cool. So I think soon, and I don't think your warehouses are that different than our warehouses, right?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. There probably are some nuances, but a warehouse has been pretty consistent over the whole world because of look at our transportation systems, right?
Yeah.
A shipping container is a shipping container. All it is a
Correct.
pallet, right? But yeah, your streets are super chaotic.
And it also brings into the conversation these dark factories just that China has been building. And maybe they are achieving some of it by removing these complexities and just letting robots handle it down when there is no human interaction.
The robots in the warehouse, I mean, I'm sorry to beat like this one drum, right? In one of our warehouses, this forklift seems like it just spin the wheel for chaos of what leak is going to happen this week, right? It's like, oh,
Mm.
I'm going to leak hydraulic fluid this week. Then I'm going to leak propane fluid the next week. Like, oh my Lord, you are such a fickle little piece of machinery, right? And if it could just be two little skateboards that I just plug in every night and it just does everything, and I
Yeah.
don't need to keep up with certifications for forklifts and all that paperwork and all that,
Yeah.
dude, that will help me so much because this forklift has been a bane of my existence. I got to keep on calling the person back. The one that we purchased, I got to take back. He's repairing, then I'm renting one. Like,
Mm.
it is so painful.
And that brings me to another interesting story, firefighting drones in the works in around USA, and it's a known thing, right? But the interesting part is what they are trying to do, and they're autonomous. At a glance, it looks like, okay, this is another robotic story, but you need to see what is happening. I mean, it's not being, first of all, being flown by another firefighter like a manual drone. They are using sensors to detect smoke. AI verifies the fire. Drones navigate the system. They navigate to the location, identify the heat source. They are spraying. They're getting the best spray positions. So it's a bunch of machines talking with each other to achieve something that can supposedly happen or is already happening. And it's not that they are very big in size. They're small drones that are doing that job. But the rapid response factor comes into play, and it's a big thing. You are a firefighter yourself. What's your take on this? Like, how big of a development is this?
I think we're going to see this with a lot of autonomous things in emergency management, right? There's a saying, a stitch in time saves nine, right? Like if you have a rip in something, if you put a stitch in it now, you can save a whole bunch. So the thing is, if we can get somewhere, be it a fire or to a person that is hurt, in a shorter period of time, the benefit is huge, right? Maybe we don't need an air tanker if we can get to it within 30 minutes, right? Because it's going to take days to spin up anything else. And by that time, that thing has only gotten bigger, right? Similar with people. Like imagine someone's on a trail and they have heat exhaustion or about to get heat stroke. We are talking about every minute that you can get to that person and get them to safety faster is huge. A lot of this stuff isn't necessarily new, right? The US has been doing spot fire detection for years. It's a cool little system and all of that stuff. Drones, I mean, geez, we've been flying drones for how long? 10 plus years, right?
Yeah.
Nothing new about that. They've been using drones for spot insecticides on farms, right? Like we know that we can put less product down on a farm if we put it strategically. So we're seeing the combination of a lot of different ideas. Like, and you've heard me talk about it, right? Pollination of ideas or almost like stealing them, right? Like when you were in high school, if you stole something from, or you took the answers to the desk next to you, it's called cheating, right?
Yeah.
But when we're an adult, it's called collaboration, right? So that is the interesting part. So I love this. There's obviously some things that we could talk about with fire management. Should we let some forests burn because then there's fuel still on the things? There's a lot of things that we still need to solve.
Yeah.
But I also think that is interesting, right? We could have dozers that are going out into these forests and removing fuels when we have AI and autonomous and machine learning systems inside of these things, right? Maybe my small fire crews that are out in the wild can be even more impactful, just like those solar installers were with their machine with all the arms, because now instead of just 5 people, it's like you've amplified them with all the other tools that they can now bring with them. Just like in firefighting, right? Firefighting and forestry used to have all just manual saws, right? Crosscut saws.
Yeah. Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Can you imagine if we were still doing it that way? But no, we have machines that can help us. So I think all of these little components will be really interesting. I mean, recently we've been seeing a lot of smoke in the United States because of some wildfires that are in Canada, right? So, and that smoke does impact people's health, right? So that's the really interesting thing is like, will we save lives because we're able to respond to something in 40 minutes, right? Will we save lives because less people are driving cars and being distracted? Right? I find it really interesting.
And the thing is, imagine the situation when one firefighter is accompanied by a swarm of, autonomous drone who are coordinating and just providing the information. That would be so much efficient considering what can be the possibilities and what he can achieve.
And to be a little selfish, right?
Yeah.
Imagine one nerdy mechanical engineer with steel-toe boots that has a swarm of AI agents that helping him make software, right? You have seen what we have done with swarms, right? I love the concept of swarms. I think that is the way that we create so much abundance.
And a lot of talk has been like, okay, these are very small. They cannot carry that much of water required. But maybe gradually down the line, let's say 2 years, 3 years, maybe they will be able to build those big ones that can do all these activities. And maybe you don't need to actually go out and be there personally and risk your life. And maybe
Well,
the
I mean, the U.S. military recently did, I think it was an F-16. They put an AI mechanism in it so that it could do certain things, right? So
Mhm,
maybe one day, but also I think early response. I also think swarms are also an interesting idea. And this has also
mhm,
come up in farming. A lot of the machinery that we see in some of these systems are getting bigger and bigger and more complicated.
mhm.
Is that the right solution for that problem? Or is the solution a whole bunch of small machines that are easier to repair? And if we have a whole bunch of good small machines, I have a small hobby farm, right? 7 acres. So if one of those machines was easier for me to acquire, maybe I also could be a little bit better of a hobby farmer, right? Because I don't
Yeah,
need to buy a $500,000 harvester or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
So there's benefits in smaller systems, like some of the people that have robot vacuum cleaners in their house, right? I don't need a really fancy robot vacuum cleaner that can walk up and down steps. If a robot vacuum cleaner costs $200, I just put one on every floor.
Yeah,
So there is a benefit in swarms. I love swarms. I love a whole bunch of little things that are doing stuff. You look at nature, right? You know me, I'm a beekeeper, right?
yeah, yeah.
Look at all of those 60,000 little creatures in one thing and what they're able to do, right? They're little drones that go and fly and grab a
Nectar.
flower and they grab
Yeah.
pollen and honey and they make these complex systems. Look at ants. There's so many interesting ideas with small, simple, that's like the whole Occam's razor, right? Sometimes the simplest solution is the right solution.
It does seem like a fascinating scene, where one firefighter is, I mean, this is just a lot of drones hovering over him and giving him all the real data. It would be interesting to see how it goes forward. Maybe it happens in a couple of years, maybe it doesn't. We'll see. We'll have to see. And it comes down to this. Are we starting to see AI evolve from individual tools into these autonomous infrastructures where multiple systems are communicating and working in the background just for our betterment? Or is that happening?
I was making applications. I was very single-sided. And I'm now
Mm,
noticing like they're all touching themselves, right? From simple things like work order management systems that can do emails and do other things. But like I was hesitant about making my own first like to-do list system, right?
yeah.
But now that my to-do list system attaches to my AI and I can ask it really questions like, what should I do with my life for the next year or the next 5 years, right? You've had all my conversations. Now you can also look at my to-do list to see what am I prioritizing day by day, right? So all of these little things talking to each other are super interesting and we're finding them so powerful, right? One of our work order management systems, we get complaints and claims from the field, right? Someone's power goes out at their house because we did a service call out there and whatnot. So now they call our phone and the first thing that they usually get is one of our AI voice agents, right? Now,
Mhm.
obviously, if they're super frustrated or some sentiment, it'll go straight to a human, right? We don't play any games. As soon as you say
Yeah.
representative, it goes to a representative, right? We always want a human touch. We're just trying to elevate humans as best as possible. But as soon as it knows that there's a complaint, that AI voice agent, which is a siloed software over here, will then touch our work order management system and start the claim process. As soon as
Okay.
that claim is filled out, it is emailing the team. So if I have a supervisor out in the field, he gets an email and it says like, hey, we have a claim at 123 Main Street. Let's say on this project, I have 2 supervisors. There's little buttons at the
Yeah.
bottom where they can claim it because they know that they're close to it, right?
Close to it. Yeah.
So we've taken AI voice, one thing, to a work order management system that we've made, to a piece of technology that's been around for a good long period of time now,
Hmm.
that are going to a phone, which truthfully, the phones that we use nowadays have been around since 2006. They haven't been around for
Yeah.
too long. I mean,
Yeah.
still 20 years.
Yeah.
But those are all disconnected things that we are putting together and we're able to respond to these things so fast. And think about that with anything, emergency management, construction management, that ability to link things. We've never been so empowered, right? Usually my call center person would have to get on the phone and then they would have to call the construction manager and then the construction manager would have to call the supervisors and figure out where they were and everything like that. But I mean, each of our trucks has transponders on them, so we know where everyone is. It's really interesting, but it's also super challenging, right? Like the amount of technology that we now have at a project manager or construction manager never existed before, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
look at my construction managers and project managers in the past, they had to be calloused individuals that had a lot of field experience, right? They
Yeah.
needed to understand that thing. And
Hmm.
now I'm asking them also to be some whiz kid with computers. So there are still some friction things that us humans need to figure out and train and transform through this time.
And this also brings to me like, okay, you understand the concept of that. Okay, these agents, if I'm able to crack them, they can be able to execute tasks much faster without me intervening. So maybe the roadblock is we only, right? It's not everybody's thinking that, okay, I can connect these agents. Okay, I can make tools that are able to connect or coordinate with each other. That again brings the questions: are we dumb enough to not let it do it? Because how many people are doing it at 1%, 2% of the whole population that is using these agents? Or are we just waiting for the right time?
Don't get me wrong. I think that there are definitely early adopters. I would like to wrap myself into the early adopters. I don't think as many people are making their own systems and softwares. There's a
Right.
lot of maintenance. There is a lot of challenges with it, right?
Mm.
I'm also noticing the teams with less experience are able to adopt and put AI into their systems faster than the teams with lots of experience. It's
Okay.
interesting that AI is almost becoming an equalizer of experience, right? Imagine you have a team of a lot of young, energetic individuals, but they're lacking a lot of experience. And then I have this other team that has a lot of experience. And unfortunately, that other team is resting on the way of the past. Like, oh, we've always done it this way, right? I don't need that. And the other team is like, you know what? I don't know a lot of things and I do need this help, right? Like I don't know a lot maybe about Excel, but if you give me a work order management system that I just use on my phone, I'm used to using my phone. It's really interesting that my less experienced teams are almost more successful, right?
And here's something that I've noticed. These less experienced person, I think one of the things that AI is doing is it's boosting their confidence a lot so that even if the answers are wrong, they're thinking, and that interestingly brings to the card that you added that, okay, that research that was done when they were intentionally fed wrong answers and they were still looking to give it out to it. And that brings, again, is it making us dumber or is it just trying to to get there on the horizon? So that's a decision again that we have to make ourselves, what we want to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I always am curious how people are using systems. And I was watching someone that was using their AI voice, like we can say it was Siri or Google, to do simple math.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting thing, right? There's pros and cons, right? Like sometimes our hands are dirty and they're full with stuff. So it's easy to say like, hey, what's 7 times 52 or whatever it is, right? Versus like getting out your calculator and doing it versus in the past, you knew your multiplication tables and you didn't even need a calculator to do 7 times 52, right? It's not really hard math. But in the same accord, I maybe forget my logarithmic tables, right? And that was kind of like a staple of engineering. Like you needed to know your logarithmic tables. So it will be a crutch for some, and it will be a superpower for others. But just like anything, right? Like I don't know how to drive from point A to point B without a map anymore. I do not know. I always put the directions on my car. So in that aspect, it's made me dumber, right? But would you consider me to be a dumb person? Hopefully not.
Yeah, definitely not.
But one of the most dangerous things that we did probably 20, 30 years ago was using MapQuest and having the piece of paper as we're driving, right?
Yeah.
And we don't do that anymore. So there's pros and cons. It definitely will crutch certain people, unfortunately.
And it's interesting that you bring it up. So when I was in my school days, we were not supposed to use calculators for any of these mathematical calculations. But kids now have a calculator in their bag. They're using it all the time. Okay. And you cannot say that they are dumb, and they are very rightly justifying what they are doing. Okay, it's why should I need to calculate this? Why should I need to multiply? But then it again comes, if this carries on from one generation to another, what's the purpose of your brain if it's not able to do basic maths?
I mean, I hung out with one of my city slicker friends, and their little 6-year-old didn't know that strawberries grew in the dirt, right? Like, I'm sure that you could say, hey, a farmer from way back when and be like, how could you guys are dumb? You don't even know how to grow your own food. That is the riskiest thing in the world. So it's all different. We will become specialized. I do think there needs to be an intellectual revolution, right? That's why I keep on pushing. Like math and science, I'm still super excited about, right? You could talk about the debates about computer science degree might be a less desirable path to recommend. But if we are going to make sure that the light of intelligence does not get extinguished, right? We are in this fork in the road of like, will the earth blow up because of our own faults or because of a rock hitting it, right? Like, what do we do to make sure that the light of intelligence, because we've not seen intelligence anywhere else in the universe, right? How do we make sure that this doesn't get extinguished? Is that getting to the moon? Is that getting to the Mars? Is that getting to space stations or whatnot, right? We are going to need an abundance of engineers that understand scientific method and that challenging thing. I think that I am super successful because of that education, not just because of luck. Don't get me wrong, that helped. And not just because of a lot of experience, but the things that I've learned through engineering, like there is no going back from that. And it doesn't mean that you can't get that from being a welder or being an operator, right? There's a lot of good opportunities, but we need to lead with curiosity. And I think that's what like that paper really talked about, right? Lead with curiosity. You need to vet stuff. You need to
Yeah.
challenge it. And I think some people don't lead with curiosity. We struggle a lot, right? We're making a lot of applications really fast. How do I
Yeah.
not know that I'm doing this wrong or there's some security risk, right?
Mhm.
So I'm going to lead with curiosity. And you see me now, and I know a lot of my friends get frustrated, right? It's like, hey, I'm finally using Claude. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's all you're using? Like, I'm using Claude, I'm using Codex, I'm using
Yeah.
Cursor because Cursor has Grok, right? Because now I'm asking a committee of different intelligence, different things to say, like, what is going on with this? Can you look at it from this lens? Can you look at it from this lens? So I don't even trust Claude anymore. And I love Claude, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we have to lead with curiosity.
And have you watched that movie Wall-E?
Yeah.
That's a yeah. You see how it happens in there, and when he goes to the spaceship and people are not able to walk. Sometimes I think, I don't know. Maybe humans are moving towards that.
Yeah, and I know in a future podcast we're going to talk about like the robotics that were controlled with minds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, yes and no. It's also interesting. So I travel a lot for work, and I was in Phoenix recently, and we've had some individuals that came from our New Jersey projects that went to Phoenix. They were rock stars. We wanted to make sure we could keep them. They moved to Phoenix. Phoenix is an oven. I mean, geez, tomorrow it's going to be like 120 there Fahrenheit. When I was there out in the field, it was 113. I mean, it's cooking.
Yeah.
And one of my New Jersey technicians was saying in 1 month, he's lost 10 pounds, right? Like
just because of the heat.
Just because of the heat, right? And I was like, that's interesting how our nature does shape us.
Yeah.
If I'm comfortable and I have AC, can I just sit on the couch and do certain things? Or if I have to be in those environments? I also saw that when I lived down in the Carolinas. Carolinas is very beautiful weather. I became very healthy and I had those opportunities because it was always nice outside. So I think that is the challenge and maybe with abundance, people get to live in better areas. It's like, maybe I don't need to live in the cold north unless I like snowboarding or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't need to live in there. Maybe I can live somewhere where I can be a little bit healthier and the weather's better for us. And maybe that's too optimistic, right?
Yeah, but who knows which way it goes, even there's a good philosophy. If everyone has everything, who will work? So that also comes into play. Anthropic launched Opus 5. It looks like they pushed it. Okay. And if you go through their paper, it says they are looking for their lower cost. It's this. So they are saying that delivering near frontier performance at much lower cost are best model in terms of efficiency and cost till now. It also had a line that specifically talked about security, how they have passed it up with a couple of security measures. Why now all of a sudden? This was not in the making maybe. And why? And is it a coincidence that it's coming just after a couple of days of all these security hacks that are happening?
Well, yeah, and there's also GPT 5.6 that's out, right? And there's all of these confusing models, right? So Claude has gone, it looks like they're going down the route of having Sonnet, and there's Haiku, that's even lower.
Yeah.
Haiku, Sonnet, Opus, Fable, Mythos, right? Like that's where they're going. OpenAI has gone a different route. And I almost kind of like their route. They have their numbers, but then now they're trying this Sol, Terra, Luna, right? So the sun, the earth, the moon.
Yeah.
And if you think about their size, that's in essence parameters that each of those have, right? The sun is big. It's a bigger parameter model. Terra, the Earth, is still big, but it's smaller. And the moon is super small. So I kind of like that. And keep in mind, I think it's confusing for most users, but I use the heck out of this stuff, right? I orchestrate in Fable 5, typically. I execute in Opus and Sonnet. And truthfully, because my workflow is so refined now, I've been very, very, very successful executing with Sonnet, which sounds odd. Like, why are you using a smaller model, right? I'm not asking it to develop new technology. I'm saying I want this table to be upside down in purple. I do not need Einstein to make that happen. Those are small refinements. Now, if I'm saying, hey, I want to develop like a leading class routing system for my field technicians, I'm going to use the biggest model I possibly can. And I will probably ask all of the big models that I have access to and then have them be a committee and then write a plan that Opus and Sonnet will execute. So I think that's good. There's a lot of things going on. It just came out a couple hours ago. So this is fresh off the presses. And if you look at the chart, they look amazing, right? Like this versus Fable 5. Almost all of it's better than Fable 5. I thought Fable 5 was the best, right?
Was the best
and it's
model,
a whole
right?
bunch, then a whole bunch of frontier bench and cursor bench and AI coding agent index. It's supposedly better than all of that, and it only cost you 1 cent. It obviously doesn't cost 1 cent, but I'm exaggerating in those things.
Yeah.
So I think this is all confusing. The other thing that we have seen is sometimes all these models are being developed and they take time. What could have been Opus 4.7 turns to be out better than 4.8. So they might keep it for a little bit longer and then that becomes Opus 5. So I don't think they ever really know where it's going to land because it could go down the wrong path. And we saw that about a year ago with OpenAI. Some of their models, like the 5.3, 5.2, 5.4 that was going on, like one was like better with talking, but it was stupider in a lot of other things. So I think they're also struggling with those.
Even their video platform Sora was also really not delivering things at that benchmark. Ultimately, they had to shut it out.
I think security needs to happen whether we like it or not. Fully understanding it's a double-edged sword, right? If you have an AI that can find security vulnerabilities, it can exploit security vulnerabilities. And I do think Pandora's box is already open with that. So I think we need to get those out. I still think Glasswall or whatever that project is that like the smaller companies that are very influential should get access to some of these first. I am completely fine with that. That makes a lot of sense, right? I do not want my banking system to get hacked. I don't want Amazon to get hacked. So that I am fully aware of that and I'm okay with that. I haven't had a chance to play with Opus 5. I'm looking forward to playing with it a little bit. Truthfully, and you've heard me say, right? I don't want this fear of missing out. I do a gut check with these models. I give them 15 to 30 minutes. I figure out if there's anything that majorly could affect my workflow. And if there is, I drop everything I'm doing and I do it. If it's not, I wait until the weekend. So when I read through Opus, there's improvements like, oh, wow, it went from 87% to 90%, right? And it was 84, then it was 87, then it's 90, right? It's an incremental increase. I already have good security things in place to move forward, right? So I didn't feel like this was a big game changer. Fable 5 I thought was already a big loop for me, so that's why I dropped everything. But I have gained so much momentum with the Fable 5 stuff. I would benefit more sitting down with a blank piece of paper to think about what I want to make next, because I've made so many cool things. I'm not saying I'm out of good ideas, but I might have less good ideas than I did a couple weeks ago when Fable 5 came out.
Yeah.
One other thing is computer use, right? Everyone's talking about security and stuff like that. I am so interested in computer use. And I think that's one thing I haven't seen many people talk about that, but like it was like in the 50s for computer use. Fable 5 was 60s in the computer use. Opus 5 is supposedly in the 70% in their OS World 2.0 little metrics thing that they're doing. I do think that Claude's computer use is a little bit of a turd. It's not bad, but it's not useful yet. I do have a machine that sits on the side that can do computer use. So if it takes it 3 hours to do a task that takes me 30 minutes, it's not the end of the world and it's still helpful. OpenAI's Codex computer use blows my mind. It is absolutely amazing. So if Claude is anywhere close to getting closer to Codex, I mean, that is where I think it gets really, really, really interesting. I mean, you could have a piece of software that is a legacy piece of software that you can't improve on, but all of a sudden you have a digital coworker that can go inside of that and let's say do audits. Right? Hey, I had a person going in and checking 5% of these things. You could literally have a computer going in and auditing every single work order, every single piece of thing. And I think that is a huge game changer. It's beneficial for our customers. It's beneficial for our clients. And there will be no going back when you can do 100% audits.
Do you think Opus 5 has that enhanced capability in terms of computer use?
Yeah, their scoring has seriously gone up. It went from 50 in Opus 4.8 to 60 in Fable 5 to 70 in, or at least that's what they're claiming with Opus 5. So how I'm going to use it this weekend is most likely computer use.
Okay. And it's rather confusing, right? You have a great benchmark model in Fable 5, okay? You have another one in your box, Mythos, which you have backtracked, okay? So my expectation was maybe sometimes down the line, maybe 2 or 3 months, they'll bring back Mythos, okay? But it's like, at this point, it looks like it's never coming back, or another debriefed version is coming back, and then they put in another more model. Are they looking to stall this whole thing of bringing a better intelligence because of these frameworks? Could that be a
I mean,
possibility?
yeah, AGI, artificial general intelligence, and artificial superintelligent ASI is an interesting concept. I don't know if you have ever read the 2027 thing, and it's a little bit of doom and gloom, right? There's
Yeah.
the like, we're all going to die, or this will be the singularity event, right?
Hmm.
There is and it has some really interesting things. Like, you should put your AI models in your opposing country, right? So the US should put all of their AI models in China. So we
Hmm.
have to use it through China, and China puts all their AI models on our soil. So that way I could turn the switch off and they could turn my switch off, right?
Hmm.
It's like just mutual closing off. And if anything got crazy, like if you're threatening
Hmm.
because you're attacking all of my software, I'm just going to turn off the light switch. It's
Okay.
interesting concept. But they
Hmm.
have a lot of cool concepts, and they've released some cool papers. It's a great little think tank.
Hmm.
But they talk about, like, should we pause? Like, and if we could have a global disarmament
Hmm.
agreement to say, hey, let's slow roll from Mythos above. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're all pretty competitive, and I think the benefits are huge. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a huge downside if we don't
Hmm.
get it right. But I also think in a couple months, Mythos will be so small that the next model is just so big, right? So I think these are going to leapfrog each other. I do wonder how much we are at the singularity for self-recursive improvement, right? When these models can improve themselves, there is no going back, right? Seconds turn into days, seconds turn into years, right? So if
Hmm.
one of these AI models has a few seconds, it could just develop itself so fast. I wonder how close we are to that.
And for that, the benchmark would be probably the release of Mythos, because that's the
Yeah,
best
I
that
mean,
they
the
have.
the benchmarks might be child's play at that point, right? Like, and keep in mind, some of these companies are testing to the test. We already know that they test to the test. So is that a real world scenario?
Hmm.
So that, and God, I mean, you look at any of these releases. I'm just going to bring it up on the side, right? Every one of these, the first one, Frontier Bench V01, right?
Yeah.
GP, like there's ARC AGI, right? There's
Yeah.
BrowseCamp, Humanity's Last Exam, OS World, Deep Suite. There's Frontier Code, Automation Bench. Like every one of them has some. Like there are so many tests out there now,
and
so
and
it's
and it's
interesting.
constantly, and that those test parameters are also constantly evolving. Like what was for GPT-1 2 is completely different for what we are doing for
Yeah,
GPT 5.6. So
yeah.
so that is another interesting thing to talk about. All right.
Yeah, so I'm going to probably, I mean, the other big move has like been biology. I don't do anything in biology, so it's not an interest of mine. But
Mm.
computer use, I'm excited about.
Yeah, and I was talking about that Murati, right? Inkling, which is her open weight model, right? That they
Mhm.
released, Thinking Labs. They're also doing a lot of stuff in biology, that they want their models to be used for these research and stuff like that. So that's also interesting. But yeah, obviously we are not into that, so couldn't talk about it.
I think the systems that we have made to kind of like find good talking points and collaborate between you and I, and I'm sure we're going to showcase it on a future call, right? We have this little podcast prepper little tool
Yeah,
thing that we're creating now,
and it's
and
a
we
cool
spun
little
it up.
system. We can see the questions, the comments that we are making. It's really interesting. Just
Yeah,
refresh it couple
I
of.
put a link in, you comment to it. Oh, these would be the questions we could ask about that. You put something in. I'm like, that's really good. Or I put, oh, that's a turd. We don't want to talk about
Yeah, we
that,
do.
right?
We are not. Yeah.
So that's where we're elevating ourselves. And I can't
Mm,
wait, because we're going to try next week to get into a little bit of like our maker labs, right? We obviously
yeah.
have our nerdy sessions where we're trying to get you to build your own applications and get those Lego blocks, a little bit of a pulse of what's going on in the world, not just in AI, but also in like
Mm,
construction and robotics.
yeah.
And then see some of the things that I've been making and some of the stuff that I want to be making in the future.
Yeah.
Super excited. Anjana, I appreciate your time all the time, man.